there's that again. Everybody on Twitch, thank you guys very much for being here. If anybody's watching this on YouTube, yo, what's up? You guys know who I am. I am here. We are doing this talk today to kind of cover and go over everything that's happened in the Division 2 over the past week and a half. Really, between the first PTS, the second PTS patch notes have been released. There is a command in chat. If you're on Twitch right now, it's ! patch notes. If you're on YouTube, I'm sure that you guys can find them. If not, I will try to remember to link them down below if you want to check out all of them in detail. We're not going to go through every single patch note, and I just see that the command isn't working. Did I turn it off? There it is. Okay. Patch notes command should work now. right. So yeah, I'll have to edit that part. But anyway, so yeah, there's the command for patch notes down below, and I will try to remember to link those on YouTube down below, but I'm terrible about remembering that kind of stuff. So if you haven't seen them yet, you can go check them out. And if you are watching this on YouTube and you want to be part of these discussions, I'm going to try to start running them every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then, yeah. So if not, if you don't want to come into Twitch to check that out, you can leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think, and definitely keep the conversation going all week long. I really appreciate it. So essentially what we have is 2 weeks ago, they announced the PTS. PTS launched. There was a bunch of patch notes and an explosion of Eagle Bearer nerf news that people just absolutely freaked out about and went crazy about. And as you can see on the list, we'll get to the Eagle Bearer at the end because I think a lot of people are dumb. But really, I think there was a massive overreaction about the Eagle Bearer nerf. I already made a video on that. That is on my YouTube. Me giving my exact and in-depth thoughts about Eagle Bearer. So we're not going to dive too much into that. But DJ Dizzle here in chat, you had said that you were a PvPer, and I'm kind of. It's interesting because when the week 2 or the stage 2 patch notes came out, I was really surprised to see that more people were not like discussing this one thing. A couple of things this week really overshadowed everything. Yo, Tony, thank you so much for that raid. Welcome to everybody coming in with Tony. We're in the middle of a talk right now about the new Division 2 patch notes, and I'm kind of going to go through, give my thoughts first, and then open it up to full discussion with everybody. But this one right here, I was really surprised. So much was announced in this one. I think there was a lot of reactions, by myself included, some knee-jerk, some very justified, that came out because of these patch notes in their entirety. But I really thought this one was going to freak more people out, and people that haven't mentioned it. So I'm really curious if anybody has been on the PTS, how much, and if you're into PvP, how much that hip fire forcing you to walk has changed it at all? Because people were already complaining that PvP in the Division 2 is very slow, methodical. It's not fast paced at all. And so this seems like it's going to slow it down even more, while also removing the whole hip fire problems that were in PvP to begin with. So I'm really curious what your guys' thoughts are on that. So let me know about that, because honestly, I rarely ever hip fire in PvE. It's kind of only a PvP thing. In my opinion, I've never had a build that you don't have a build that focuses on hip fire, but I know in PvP that mobility is so important that I'm really curious how that lands for you guys. So then the PTS Part 2 launches, and there's an absolute crap ton of changes. There's some controlling changes, balancing changes. You can see right here, they made a ton of PvP changes with different skills, some nerfs, some buffs. You guys can go through those. Again, patch notes command is in there so that you guys can check those out on your own. Some of the exotic holster talents got nerfed and buffed, like Chatterbuff's kind of got nerfed. Nemesis has got nerfed. It got nerfed, which honestly I'm kind of happy about because it now means I don't have to run my Nemesis as my secondary with my LMG, because I always did just to get the bonus headshot damage. So at least now it doesn't feel like it's a best in slot offhand weapon. Terry said he hates hipfire, so this is a way to force people not to use it. I mean, that works. I mean, if that's what it is, that's what it is. I think that's kind of a weird reason, but I mean, they're devs and they've got control of the game, so there's that. Yeah. Weapon changes they made a crap ton of, and if you guys scroll through these, and here, the Eagle Bearer nerf, it's kind of funny, because the whole Eagle Bearer nerf that everybody was freaking out about is really kind of tied into everything, and I had even said in my video that, like, you can't buff everything to bring it up to Eagle Bearer, because it's going to present balancing issues, which we're going to talk about later, because the skill, the unique talent thing, I think is going to lead to some major issues. But that like, you just can't buff everything, because if you buff everything, then we get the same net result as just nerfing the Eagle Bearer. But they did. They buffed almost every single weapon. A few of them caught somewhat significant buffs, depending on your definition of significant. But like a ton of, was there any decreases? The P416 got a 5% damage decrease. And just about every other assault rifle got an increase, right? So they all got buffed up. The P416 got buffed down a little bit, and that was like the second runner for the Eagle Bearer. So now the Eagle Bearer nerf, not as big of a deal. It was still, even when that was the only weapon nerfed, it was still the best assault rifle in the game. Now, all of the others got buffed, other than P416, which got knocked down a little bit. So it seems like all of the assault rifles are going to be more in line with each other now. The Eagle Bearer will still be a slight outlier. And then there's a specific buff to its main talent perk. And we'll get into that again later, because ultimately I think the Eagle Bearer is luckily, the Eagle Bearer now, it's kind of funny. The Eagle Bearer was like the big thing that everybody's like, fuck this game, I'm quitting. You guys ruined all my time. I spent 200 hours grinding out the Eagle Bearer. And I think the unique talent thing on gear totally just made people forget about the Eagle Bearer at least long enough to not necessarily have that be the reason why they burned down the Division 2's house. Yeah, now that's just extra lighter fluid that they're putting on the fire, as it were. The AKM was already super close. I loved the AKM, to be honest. I always did. I never got a good P416. My AKM was kind of always my best assault rifle, which is why I moved on to LMGs, because I really liked LMGs. Most LMGs got buffed. The M249 and the M60 both got nerfed. The M60 by 10%, 249 by 4%. It is what it is. The M60 was was hands and above the best LMG to use. And one thing I have rallied for and pushed for and asked for, and nobody on friggin' Twitter, and I don't know if I've been muted by this point, because after the whole Kenley College thing, it's very possible that the people, the developers in the game that I used to communicate with have just muted me, because they probably got irritated at my bullshit over Kenley College, because I really rallied against that, and that choice of theirs actually caused me to quit the game. I've got a video about it. I've been called a crybaby, whiner, blah blah blah. But anyway, I've asked multiple times about two things in particular. And one of them has been asking for a base damage indicator on every single weapon. Because right now, if you pick up especially with LMGs and unhinged LMGs, but measured, it's really difficult to tell also. But if you pick up one weapon and you've been using a weapon that's like the best damage that you can find, and let's say you're using an unhinged LMG and you pick up a second LMG that doesn't have unhinged, it is impossible to know what damage that gun is going to do with unhinged unless you actually recalibrate unhinged onto it, just to find out that it's not as good as the one that you already have. And then you're wasting materials, you're wasting guns, you have to keep more shit in your stash, because now I literally, have a stash or a section of my stash just for LMGs with unhinged so that I can roll them onto new possible high damage guns to match my M60. So I'm kind of hoping that they do that, but ultimately I think this is going to be good for LMGs. It should bring them all back down into range of each other and make other ones useful. Marksman rifles, I'm trying to see. Okay, unfortunately I've got my screen is zoomed in, so I'm missing I'm scrolling past some things. Marksman rifles, every single one of them got an increase. Cool. Rifles, all of them got an increase with the exception of the 716, which is interesting to me that like the MK17 was the outlier, was the best gun in the game at launch. Then it got nerfed. Now it's getting buffed again. Kind of weird what they're doing, but it is what it is. Submachine guns all got a massive buff except for the T821, which got a decrease. Some of them pretty substantial. They did say that this 38% MPX buff was a mistake. It was not a typo, it is that, but it seems to be doing way too much. So I think it was Thylander said that they're probably in wave 3 going to knock that down, and it will probably be a 10 to 15% boost, not a 38% boost. Oh wait, where's the rifles? There was one again. Yeah, there it is. The M16, which is a 3-round burst in this game, essentially a pulse rifle for any of you guys that watch or that play Destiny. Essentially, it's a pulse rifle, and essentially, it's completely useless. I don't know anybody that used it. I think I used a green one once, and for a little bit, it was a decent gun. Got a 68% damage increase. And honestly, I'm kind of excited to get in and actually try that out and see if it's actually useful. Because that would be pretty cool. And then the vectors caught a big increase. So it is possible that vectors will actually be useful again. In these patch notes, there is a ton of changes to weapon talents, and we're not, or to gear talents rather. And we're not going to go through all of them. Because, like, honestly, basic gear talents, critical, surgical, devastating, it seems like they all got a buff. Well, most of them, yeah, no, those all got a buff. Gear talents, some got nerfed, some got buffed by varying degrees. But the biggest thing that they did with talents are all basic talents, and this is why Twitter kind of exploded yesterday, and I really want to thank, there's Agent Pruitt, Agent Pruitt, I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, him, See the Stars, there was, I think like a hero got into it, Thylander was there, and for a while, it was a really, really amazing discussion that we had on Twitter, which is, in and of itself is kind of an outlying and weird thing to be able to say, but it was an amazing civil discussion about these changes, and it was really, really refreshing to see that, as opposed to just, fuck this game's dead, I'm done. Like, all of those overreactionary, knee-jerk bullshit reactions are irritating, and I just don't think do any good, and ultimately, I think we need to have discussion and dialogue more than ranting and raving, which is funny because here I am just ranting and raving, but we're going to discuss everything after. But the biggest change, in my opinion, and honestly, I do believe that there's one thing, that the only thing that's going to make this game good ever is changes to RNG. They need to be able to raise the floor of your attribute rolls based on the difficulty of the content you're doing. Right? If you're doing normal difficulty, cool, you can have 0.0% or 0.5% all the way up to 0.45% or whatever on like a damage to elites mask, right? That's fine for normal. But as you get up into hard, I think that floor should be 10 or 15%, right? The lowest roll you should get is 10 or 15%. As you get up to challenging, I think the lowest roll you should get is 20 or 25%. And when you get up into heroic or into the raid, I think the lowest roll you should possibly be able to get is like 30%, right? It gives you a better chance of getting higher rolls based on the difficulty that you play. I have brought this up multiple times, and again, maybe I've been silenced, or not silenced, because that's like, all victim-y, but I think maybe I'm just being ignored or muted because of the way I reacted over the whole Kenley College thing. But until they do that, I don't think this game can be good. because it's just not it's not good, it's not rewarding. It feels like a giant waste of your time to go in and spend all of this time playing the game and getting shitty rolls. The last month that I played this game, I think I got 2 pieces that were better rolls, but I couldn't re-roll them on any of my gear because I had already changed my gear, and then the RNG just trying to get the gear piece that you need was ridiculous. And so all of that just gets worse. And with the changes that they announced in the first week of the PTS, where all brand sets can now roll in all slots, that's adding to the RNG loot pool. All gear sets can now roll anywhere and not just in Black Tusk missions. That's adding to the general loot pool, which means RNG is getting worse. I don't know if you guys can see where I'm going here, but RNG is going to be even worse than it was. And while they have added tools, which are good to be able to target specific loot pools, as far as like brand sets, right? You're going to have an Araldi's place where you can go and grind out Araldi's, or if you're looking for LMGs, you can go grind LMGs. And that kind of targeted grind is amazing and absolutely 100% needed in these types of games, but this one specifically, and that's going to make things better. You're still going to be looting 98% trash items if they don't fix the actual RNG. And like DJ Dizzle brings up gear score, Wise Purple, I don't mind purples dropping, because here's the thing, you need junk loot. You always need junk loot. If you don't have junk loot, then the god rolls or the good loot aren't gonna matter, right? If every drop you get is good, nothing is good, right? So you need junk loot. I don't mind necessarily purples dropping. My biggest problem is that a purple 492 can roll with a higher attribute roll than a high-end 500. That's always been an issue of mine in the division, let alone in any game, but particularly in the division, because the overlaps have always irritated me, going back even into Division 1, and now it's just absolutely absurd. I still think, I might be mistaken, but I think my highest damage to Elite's mask I've ever gotten was on a purple. No, it wasn't. It was a backpack. There was something on a backpack. The highest I ever got was on a purple. Yo, Seagirl, thank you very much for the resub. I will catch everybody with songs and stuff later, the way I normally do. So I made a video, and to be completely honest, I know I'm extremely long-winded, but I made a very, very long video going into this kind of stuff, and the fact that, like, I wish that 495s could not drop with higher rolls than, like, 500s. And Thailander, in one of the threads that we were talking yesterday, he did kind of break down how gear score does matter, but the problem is that with the way they figured out in armor rolls being included in that total allocation of points for a piece of gear, if it gets a high armor roll, it's going to have low attributes. If it has low armor, it'll have higher attributes. If it has more talents, then it's going to have lower attributes. And so that way of doing it just seems to really throw things off, especially when we can only recalibrate an item once, and we can only recalibrate one thing. You get a piece that's got really high attributes but crappy armor. We can't recal armor. We can't optimize armor. So that piece, if it's got low armor, is just a useless piece that we now have to hang on to for the high attribute rolls. But then if we get our high armor roll, or our high armor piece with the perfect talents, and then we re-roll one of the attributes, well, now we can't do anything else with that piece when they do what else they talked about here, which we get into. It's honestly, I don't want to say it's going to be a mess, but it feels like Title Update 6 is going to be just as much a mess as it is going to be a blessing for some people. And it's kind of funny, because I came up with this thing yesterday that I think these patch notes and Title Update 6 is going to have something for everybody in the division, regardless of where you stand on this game. If you think this game is dead and it sucks, you have so much ammunition now to continue firing those bullets. Have fun. If you are still really liking this game, you just got an entire reason to regrind every piece of gear that you get, because of the gear changes that I started talking about and then got sidetracked. If you don't know if you want to come back, it gives you a lot of stuff to come back and try out. And to get in and experiment with and whatever. If you're into theory and build crafting, these changes to unique talents are going to give you a lot of stuff to do for a while. If you are somebody that wants to rally on the devs for making ridiculous choices, you've got ammunition. Like, seriously, this is almost the best patch any game could ever make from a sarcastic, cynical point of view, because it's literally good for everybody while not being great for anybody, in my opinion. So what's up, Crank? How are you doing? So what I started talking about is that all basic gear talents are changing to be called unique equip. Meaning they will not stack with duplicates of themselves on other pieces of gear. This means players will have to compose builds of unique talent combinations instead of stacking one talent in all places. In order to compensate for this, all of the basic talents have gotten boosts. So, as we can see, Devastating gets 10% weapon damage instead of 5%, but you can't use it in multiple slots now. This is both good and bad. A lot of people are hopeful that this will increase build diversity by forcing people to try new talents, because now you can't just get Devastating on 4 pieces of gear and move on and not try out anything else. The problem with this, and again, this patch is perfect because it's good and bad, man. There's both sides and there's multiple perspectives, and until we really dive in, I don't think there's going to be a significant or a definite answer to whether this is good or bad until this goes live. There's only so much you can do on the PTS. And until this goes live and until we see how it works with our characters as they are now, it's going to be kind of difficult to really give it a stamp or just throw it in the dumpster fire. The problem is they've come out and said that they're not increasing gear score, which I think is a ginormous mistake, and I'm going to tell you why. They said that they didn't want to increase gear score because it was too much right now, but they're still forcing us to essentially re-roll our entire sets with this unique talents thing. We'll dig into that more in a minute on its own, but this goes live. If this doesn't go live with episode 2, right? Let's say title update 6 goes live, episode 2 goes live a week later, or 2 weeks later. That 2 weeks is going to be spent with us regrinding all of our gear to make new sets, and then title update 2 comes out, or I'm sorry, episode 2 comes out, and cool, I guess. Like, we just keep going. If they come out together and there's no gear score increase, cool, I guess. But then if they raise the gear score in another 2 or 3 months with episode 3, we're literally regrinding all of our stuff now and then having to regrind it all. I think a gear score increase now would make the impact of this unique talents on all gear talents less hurtful, right? Because if we had to go in and re-roll or regrind out all of our gear because the gear score increased, we would all do that anyway, right? We would use our build as it is now until we got pieces to replace it with, and then we would change it. With no gear score increase, we're literally going in just to grind out all of our gear again now, because honestly, this is going to destroy a ton of builds. It's going to make the raid, unless they make changes to NPCs, which we have not seen any changes yet. They have not announced any changes to health on enemies or resistances on enemies or anything else. This is going to make the raid extremely difficult for people to run. They said that they did this because they wanted to limit certain meta builds that make the game boring and to kind of reduce speed running in the raid and whatnot. But what this is ultimately going to do is anybody that didn't already have an amazing build is screwed. And without that level of DTE, of damage to elites, which was the only thing that made the raid playable for a lot of people and beatable for a lot of people, they're humped now, man. They're completely humped, and I don't know that they're going to be able to even finish the raid. And we already know that the raid isn't being engaged with a lot. Now, there were some people or one person that was in the ETF. I don't know if that gives him inside info, and he shouldn't have said what he said, but somebody on Twitter did say that they believe that the next raid will not be impacted by this and will actually be helped by this, because the next raid is not just a bunch of elite damage spongy. They didn't go into this detail, but this is the context I inferred from their one sentence comment. So I think moving forward, these can be great changes, but I'm fearful of what it's going to do for the content that we already have. So essentially what that means is right now, if you've stacked, 90% damage to elites and you've stacked, 65% from your talents, I think that's what you could do. Was it 65 or 45? I can't remember, right? If you stacked it, it's, damage to elites is 10% right now. So if you stack that on 6 different pieces, then you've got 60% damage to elites. You can't do that now. You only get 25% through... You only get 25% through one piece, and then the rest all has to be through gear and everything else. So, that's gonna be, I don't know how that's gonna work out, but it's gonna force just about everybody to re-roll or to re-grind out all of the gear. And from my perspective, and now I tend to be a little bit cynical, I can see how this is going to help build diversity, or how it could help build diversity by forcing people to try out new talents. My fear on that is, just like we found every time in the Division or Division 2, there are always best in slots. Once we figure out those best in slots, I fear that this is going to lead to every single person running the same 6 to 8 talents. Maybe changing their gun, but that's going to be the only build diversity is how we change our gun. Because if we can only have, 6 to maybe 10 talents total, and we can only have one of each, we're all going to be running the same talents. On top of that, if you already have devastating, let's say you already have devastating on your gloves, right? If that rolls on any other piece of gear, that piece of gear now is insta trash. Unless it has an attribute that's higher that you need, right? It's just insta trash. There's no more experimenting. Right now, if you've stacked damage to elites and you get a weapon damage and you get a devastating mod, you might take that damage to elites off to put on that devastating talent or that devastating piece to see if, yes, you're sacrificing against elites, but you're getting more overall weapon damage, and you can experiment with that. Now there's none of that. Like, you can just have one of each, so you just throw on one of each, and that's it. 13 on your gun as well. Fair enough. But, that's it. There's no more real experimenting and tweaking in those regards as far as talents. And on top of that, somebody, I can't remember who it was I saw on Twitter yesterday, runs a skill build and said that now going through fixing all of their talents, their skill build drops a little bit in overall skill damage, but their weapon damage jumps drastically and their survivability drops or gets boosted drastically because they don't have to sacrifice anything now, because it's not an all or nothing, right? You just get a little bit of everything. And everybody is just going to have a little bit of everything. And so ultimately that, combined with everything else, I think is going to actually hurt build diversity. I think it's going to make RNG even more painful. And let's face it, RNG in this game is ridiculously painful to begin with. So that's kind of where I land on all these changes. I'm interested to try them out. I can't on stream, sadly, because it's only on PC, and my PC isn't good enough to stream and play on PC, but I'm gonna try them out. Everybody in chat that's been here, thank you guys very much for being here live. I'm definitely diving into the discussion in just a moment. Anybody watching this on YouTube, thank you guys very much for doing so. If you have comments, suggestions, thoughts, questions, whatever, leave those in the comments down below. And thank you guys for being here. We're gonna go into the discussion now on Twitch. So if you are watching this on YouTube and you want to join the discussions, hop on over anytime you want. Hit the follow button if I'm not on live, and this is pretty much what I generally do on my streams. So thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. You guys rock, and keep on living the dream. I'll see you guys later. Everybody on Twitch, I'm not going anywhere. That was just my outro for that portion of the YouTube stuff. So I am going to scroll back up into chat because I know I missed some stuff. I'm not going to read all of it, but anything that you guys tagged me in, if I miss it, please re-tag me if there was anything that you said. I don't mind spam as much as some other people. I mean, I mind spam, but if you've said it in a bit, I'll try to catch up on chat. I do want to catch up. Too easy. Well, let's see here. We got James Bond. Thank you very much for the follow. DAOC player, Daok player. Thank you very much for the follow. I totally appreciate it. Too Easy and Lieutenant Buzz Lightyear. What is up, my friend? How are you doing? Thank you guys very much for the host. Tony, again, thank you very much for the raid earlier. I appreciate all of you guys. And Seagirl with a resubbed Prime sub for 16 whole months. Holy crap. Dude, you are nearing in on a second stream, baby. Thank you to everybody. Thank you guys very, very much for that. Return of the Woods build, now that SMGs are a thing. I mean, it's definitely possible. And that's the thing. People complained about the Woods build and SMGs, so they got nerfed. Now they're buffing everything. And I just, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that. Monkey? Hey, I said it right. I think Ox Monkey. I don't know if it's Ox Monkey or just Monkey, but thank you very much for hopping on the largest couch on Twitch. I promise we do clean it, but it is the biggest couch on Twitch. Thank you very much for hopping on it and hanging out with us today. Tweets were awesome. Loot rolls are still not real good. See, who was it? Somebody had said yesterday on Twitter, Venom, you said that the loot rolls are still not real good. Somebody had said on Twitter that they were getting better rolls through crafting. I don't know if it was Seize the Stars or somebody else, but they were saying that they were getting better rolls on crafted gear than looted gear. So maybe that's their way of trying to make crafting relevant. I was going to say make crafting relevant again, but it hasn't been relevant in this game since then. Yeah, no, Quiverwing, that's what I tried to say with the loot, that most of it is absolute junk, and being able to target it just means that you're targeting the trash that you're going to be getting. Resco on sale. In the ODZ, you average 20 caches every 30 minutes. Well, that was the thing. Oh, I even forgot to bring this up, because then the whole PvP state of the game fiasco, which we can talk about too, right? All of the changes that they announced, like they build this up to be the big PvP change state of the game, and then almost all of the changes that they mentioned were all PvE stuff within the Dark Zone. And I get that you want to incentivize people to go in there. I've said for the longest time, the reason I don't PvP is A, I don't like PvP in Division or Division 2, but also I have no reason to go in the Dark Zone. Anything I want, I can get outside. The one time I had something to go into the Dark Zone was Pestilence. I went in, I got it, I got the F out. It was a terrible roll, but then they even made that useless by then buffing all exotics to be at max damage. So, yay, I don't have to grind for that again. Now, they did say after that state of the game that they are adding more named items and exclusive named items into the Dark Zone, and I saw some screenshots today from, I think, Mike Thinks Aloud, who found some of the new named items, and they're pretty cool. Essentially, they've got perfected talents, which are the same talents that we get normally, but better versions of them, which are pretty cool, honestly. The perfected Unbreakable was awesome. It heals you for 100% of your health. That's super, super cool. I think those are going to be really cool. So if they drop a few of those into the Dark Zone, maybe it gets a player like me to go in there, but ultimately they didn't announce anything to how they're actually going to change and fix the PvP itself, which is the main issue. The people that I think, if I can speak for a minute from the general idea that I've gotten from the PvP people that I know, the issue is they just want to go in and PvP. They don't want to go in and kill landmarks and kill NPCs and then get caught off guard. Like, they want to go PvP in that same kind of scary environment where you then have to get extractions out and stuff like that. So I don't know, man. I honestly think at this point, pull out most of the PvE stuff from the Dark Zone. Maybe have, like the supply drops, make everything extractable, and that's it. You go in, you kill other players, you loot stuff, you need to extract it, you get PvP. Like, that's it. Just make it PvP with extractions. Like, I think that would be kind of cool. Might tackle some mine cluster builds because they're so ridiculously OP'd. Well, that was partially changed / not changed by some of the actual skill changes that they made. So, like, you can't stack your damage that great, but then they added new talents that help you stack more damage. So, I don't know what it's going to do to skill builds, to be completely to be completely honest. Why raise gear score when that number really doesn't affect power? Venom, it kind of does. I read a comment from Thailander yesterday where he said the gear score of an item dictates how many points that item can get as far as attributes, talents, and armor. And then that's how their generator creates each piece of gear. So technically, he said on their scale, a 500 piece is always better than a 499. It might only be by a point or two behind the curtain in their way of doing it, but to us, it doesn't look like it because 2 or 3 points of armor might make it that much better, but then all of the other stats are terrible. So it's really, really hard. Why is no one talking about double heals or mender alone? PvP has become survivability stage even with build diversity. If we can still get hit points like that, it's just not fun. He's not answering me. No, DJ Dizzle, I'm sorry I wasn't answering you while I was doing that talk. I was trying a new format where basically I give all of my thoughts and then we do like kind of a question and answer / discussion afterwards. I really wasn't trying to ignore you, DJ. So like it really was more about trying to have the discussion after that, to have that bit to put up on YouTube and then to get out my thoughts and then have a back and forth. Otherwise I get distracted and I miss a ton of stuff in chat. So I'm trying to get a command set up to be able to get comments and thoughts from you guys into Discord so that I can hit everything afterwards. I hope you're still here. So yeah. And no, I don't want you to be quiet. You can totally keep talking. I want you to keep talking because you guys can have a discussion amongst yourselves, maybe even come up with something. And then when it gets to like the discussion phase, bring a more thought out or rounded out or I don't know. You guys can have a discussion first and then I join in. Music was super quiet. Actually, Grill, I was trying to mute all my alerts and for some reason they weren't muted. You finally got the pestilence in the PTS. Dude, doesn't that suck when you're going for something? I'd feel so shitty if I went into the PTS, did a raid, got the Eagle Bearer, and then I'm humped. Like in regular. Ready for the optimization station? There's no way they can put the optimization station in yet. I mean, you got to figure we are still only... I got to remember what side to lean to. I need to lean to my right instead of to my left because to the left I end up covering myself in this. But you got to remember... the optimization station, when they put that in the Division 1, they put it in because it was year 3. People already had their builds. They weren't doing much to support the game. They're still trying to fix, add, do new things in this game. Optimization station would kill any reason to grind. It would definitely help the RNG side of things, but once you optimize a piece, you would never need another piece. So in 6 months or a year, ultimately that's going to hurt the game. More than it is now. Comcast screw us? How did Comcast screw you? Hey, what's up, Girl Sergeant? How you doing? How are you liking Destiny on PS4? I'm sorry we haven't been able to play yet. Hopefully we can soon. I'm going to be doing some group stuff tonight. I got to do Shattered Throne, which I still need 2 people for, although Rapture did say that she was going to help. And then, or she might help. And then, what else were we? Oh, we were talking about maybe doing a Scourge run. And then, maybe I'm going to do some Reckoning because I still need a 1-2 punch shotgun. We want to fight? Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, but that's the thing. I get where they were coming from. I get where they were coming from as far as not increasing the number of people in the Dark Zone because ultimately that doesn't give you more whiskey. I don't know if you saw their analogy, right? He basically said if he's got a cup this big, right? Let's say you can fit 20 ounces, and for this, we're going to use an ounce of whiskey as a player. If you can fit 32 ounces of whiskey in this, but you only have 10 ounces of whiskey, whether you put it in this cup or whether you put it in a small cup, you still have the same amount of players. So their focus was trying to get more people into the Dark Zone, but you're absolutely right, Dizzle. My whole problem with it is that they're trying to incentivize PvE people into the Dark Zone, and those people don't want a PvP. Those people are like me. My entire Division 1 Dark Zone experience was going in solo, farming NPCs, and then trying to ninja my shit out in an extraction, which I can't do anymore because these Dark Zones are so small. Like anybody can get from one end of the map to the other end of the map as soon as that extraction goes up. I can't ninja shit out of these Dark Zones unless the Dark Zones are empty. So You need to incentivize PvE people that want a PvP into there, and giving just the pestilence or named items, that's not going to engage, that's not going to tell me to PvP. What that's going to do is it's going to incentivize me to go into the Dark Zone to try to ninja my ass around, hopefully get lucky, and if I don't, I'm just going to keep grinding out more NPCs until I get my piece and then try to ninja it out at like 3 a.m. or something like that. That's it. Like, they need to get people that want to PvP into the Dark Zones. That's the fucking problem. And the only way to do that is to fix PvP. And they didn't give one way that they're going to try to make the PvP experience better. Other than, I mean, there's, in these patch notes, there are a ton of, oops, I just lost my place in chat. There are a ton of changes in PvP, specifically to skills. So I don't know if that's going to make it better or not. I really, really don't. Someone suggests one DZ PvE only. No, we don't need a PvE only DZ. This PvE only DZ idea, Monkey, started in Division 1. And when it started, it was a really, really good idea, because if I don't know how much you guys played Division 1 or at what point you got into Division. When Division 1 first launched, and when 1.1 or patch 1.0, it was either 1.0 or 1.1, when they first introduced gear sets, the only place you could get them were the incursions and the Dark Zone. And you almost needed the gear sets to complete the incursions, because the incursions were really, really difficult. So I remember one of the biggest points of conflict in the game was the fact that, like, you needed the gear to do the incursion, but then the incursion was where you got the gear. And that's a self-defeating loop that's really, really shitty for players, especially solo players. And I am primarily a solo player. So the gear sets could drop from named enemies. Any named enemy could drop the gear sets. But at that time, the named enemies in the light zone were a one-time kill out of the game forever. They weren't on this 4-hour rotation that they're on now in Division 1. So what you had was, like me, I remember one of them, I can't remember which one. I think I was like level 13. I'm running around. There's this gold, or 13 or 15, and I ended up killing him. Never saw him again, because I killed him when I was level 15, until they added them in like 1.6 or 1.7 that you could rotate them, or that they would respawn every 4 hours. So at that time, named enemies could drop gear sets, but the only place you could reliably find named enemies were incursions or the Dark Zone. So it incentivized everybody to go into the Dark Zone to get the gear sets, including PvE players, because you could go in, you could get your gear sets, and then you could go get the incursions, and then use the incursions to farm the gear sets to get better rolls. And it was kind of bloody genius, except for the fact people like me that hated PvP, the Dark Zone sucked at that time. Without the whole Dark Zone North expansion, you could still get away from people, but it was difficult. So I used to take a lot of pride in going in solo, being able to farm a named enemy here or there, dodging groups of 4 as I went, and then like popping an extraction in one thing, leaving there, running to another one, popping another one, and then actually extracting, and then either extracting there or running all the way back to the first one, so that I could kind of like get 2 going, so that groups of rogues or groups of players might go to this one, but then I'm at this one, and then they may start moving to this one when I pop that, and then I can go back to this one as the helicopter's showing up. Like, that was a lot of fun. That cat and mouse game was, honestly, pretty fun. But ultimately, I hated it, because there were so many times I got in, even with a group, and I would finally get the one piece that I've been grinding days, weeks for. In particular, at this point, it was a striker chest piece that I'd been grinding for over a month and a half. Could not get a striker chest piece, finally get it to drop, and then got completely and totally ganked and lost it. And my first striker chest piece I finally got was from a friend of mine who finally got one in the incursion. So, like, they need to figure something out. So at that time, people wanted a PvE only Dark Zone, because that was the only place that we could farm things reliably. Their answer to that was then to put the named enemies in the open world or in the light zone on a rotating basis, so that they were there every 4 hours. That was really, 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 really nice. But the problem in Division 2 is that people still have this idea of a PvE only Dark Zone, and we already have it. It's called the entire game. Like, the entire game is a PvE Dark Zone from Division 1. If you think about what did the Division 1 have in the DZ other than PvP that the open world here does not have? And we're not going to talk about like snow and like that kind of stuff. But the DZ in Division 1 had random named bosses, or not random, but like recurring named bosses, right? It had supply drops. It had locations that you could go to, kill bosses, kind of have some fun combat, and then like those I forget what they were called, landmarks. They had the landmarks. We have those with control points in Division 1. We have those with multiple things now in Division 2. So like everything that was in Division 1 Dark Zone is in Division 2 Light Zone. So we don't need it. The other thing, let's see, where am I at? You think this may have killed your build, James Bond? It may have. It very well may have. And if it did, again, if you're the type of player that likes building builds and grinding gear and stuff like that, it works for you because now you can go out and grind. You can try out some new talents. I honestly think that within a week or two of this going live, there's going to be best in slots for every single slot, and everybody's going to grind those, and then it's just going to kill the game again, and then we'll be right back to this point in 3 more months. Don't start on the whiskey. Dude, DJ, it was kind of a really brilliant metaphor, analogy at that time, and I get where they're coming from, right? You can keep it 12, and as long as they're populated, you're good. The problem is when you get to 12 and you only have three teams of 4, that's now 12 teams, or that's 12 players, but it's only 3 teams. If 2 of those teams don't want a PvE, that third team is absolutely effed and is not going to get any PvP, right? And even if the other ones do, you're just fighting the same 2 squads over and over and over again. That's effing boring. So I totally get where you're coming from. The problem with 4 to 8 more, honestly, is if you get 4 to 8 more people in there, those small, they're going to feel extremely congested. So I think they do need to expand them a little bit if they end up upping the players. And to be honest, I think they are going to up the player cap at some point. I think they're going to let go of the desire that they have to balance it for 12 and blah, blah, blah. I think they're going to add more space, bump it up, and you guys will get more people in there. Risk reward is non-existent in the DZ. Not taking over DZ PvEers. I won't let you, no matter how many supply drops they put in there. No, but that's the thing. Like, I don't even understand the point of doing a supply drop in the Dark Zone as a PvEer. I really don't. You go in there, you kind of, as a PvEer, there's risk. That's the thing, DJ. To a PvEer, there's risk, which is why I just said I don't understand the point, because I can do light side supply drops and get more gear, and it's the same shitty gear, and I get more of it, and all I got to do is kill some enemies, and I don't have to worry about getting my shit taken from me. Whereas in the Dark Zone, there is that risk. So to me, it's kind of like the supply drops and PvE farmers, and Jack Mullins, I don't know if you're here or not. I love you to death. But PvE DZ grinders, to me, are very much like new people into the BDSM world. Like, they want to try to get, they want to try this out, right? They've read 50 Shades, or they've seen the movies, and they think it's kind of cool, and they kind of want to ease their way into it, and they want to feel like they're being dirty, but really, like, they just want to be smacked. They don't want to be spanked. They just want to be smacked. Right? They use easy release handcuffs, right? Because they don't want to feel as if they're losing control, but they want to feel as if they think that they're losing control, right? They want to flirt with the idea of losing control without actually losing control. And there's nothing wrong with that. But unfortunately, that creates a problem for the people that do want PvP, because straight up PvP, which they did with elimination and you have with conflict, it's just, it's still boring and bad, because it still speaks to the problem that there's problems with DV or with PvP in and of itself in the game. It doesn't matter what they put in, I'll stay out of it. I'm the same way, Venom. I mean, I have no reason to go in the Dark Zone. If they put some super awesome piece of gear that might work for my build, I will, but I will never contest other players for it because I suck at PvP and I just don't want the hassle. Took you forever to get this build as good as it gets. If they don't make them bigger, you can't go more than like 20. Right, I completely agree. Monkey says, I love PvP and PvE, so the DZ doesn't bother me, but the ODZ NPCs are brutal unless you're in a PvE build, and then you get melted by a PvPer. I get it. Everything needs work, but they're trying. They are trying, and that's the thing that irritates me when people shit on the developers. And I got called a dev the other day because I, like, defended the people that were, like, banning people in State of the Game chat. But, like, I get it. The developers are trying. They're not trying to break their own game, right? They're not being lazy. They need this game to succeed. This is their friggin' job, and they love their job, right? They want it to succeed, because if this succeeds, they get a Division 3 or Division 4 or whatever. Like, they're trying to make it better. I don't know what the ETF did, honestly. I don't know what good it provided, because it definitely, with PvP, it doesn't seem like either they heard the message or they're listening to the message. And this whole thing with gear talents, honestly, it's intrigued me. It works because it intrigues me and it makes me want to play. But at the same time, without RNG being changed, I'm out. Like, I'm out. Here's the thing. I went back to Destiny about a month ago. I have not felt 1 minute of my time wasted. And granted, part of that was because I had to gear up and I had to level up and things like that. But I can go into Destiny right now, and sure, I'm preparing for the new expansion, so I'm doing bounties and I'm trying to store bounties and stuff like that. But there's still multiple pinnacle weapons I could chase if I want to. There's still, just dailies and weeklies and things like this, and different materials and all of this stuff. I haven't felt 1 minute of my time wasted. And here's the other interesting thing. I'm still using the same guns I had. I've just been able to boost them up because they're so much fun to use. And that's where the Division 2, I think, ultimately is failing, is the game just isn't as fun to play because the devs are taking away our fun with the game, right? We find something that's super fun in PvE and they take it away, which I get. But that core, I think with Destiny, the key to it is that the core gunplay is the best in the genre. It honestly is probably the best feeling shooter I have ever played. It feels amazing to fire the guns. Every gun sounds different. The way that they hit, the way that the recoil hits, the sound. Oh God, especially Ace of Spades when you get that Memento Mori. And it gets that little metallic ting at just a little bit of an overlay on the original sound. Oh my God, it's so damn cool. Surreal Ghost, thank you very much for hopping on the largest couch on Twitch and hanging out with us. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So yeah, like, that's something that I hate, the comparisons. I really do. If you guys have followed me for a while, I rail constantly against comparisons with Destiny 2, Division 2, and whatever. And so this isn't so much, I'm not trying to compare it and say this one's better, that one, blah, blah, blah. But I do want to say that that's what I feel the Division 2 is missing. And when I went back to Destiny 2, it hit me that, like, Division 2 feels like a chore, right? The grind to make a better guild, it feels like a chore. It doesn't feel fun, right? Because the loot is so awful. It's great that it gives you a ton of loot. That's the one thing that I wish Destiny 2, especially when you're leveling up, fails at. They don't give you enough gear, and there's too much RNG in it that can still screw you in leveling up. In the Division 2, the loot is everywhere, but so much of it, almost all of it, is absolute crap. Absolute crap. Cross save would be awesome. I completely agree. DJ Dizzle, I want cross save in Division 2. I want it. I want it so bad. Cross play, I have a whole video about it. I'm completely anti cross play, but cross save, not completely anti cross play. Cross play would be good in the occasional game here or there. I do not want cross play to become an industry standard, because I think overall, over time, it will hurt gaming and gamers way more, especially as we're moving into a new console age or new console generation, where consoles are probably going to be $500 to $700. less and less people, I feel, are going to be able to afford all of them or both of them if you're just talking about Xbox and PS4. And I believe that cross-play as an industry standard will move the industry towards more system exclusives, which will force gamers to have to buy multiple consoles. Because ultimately the consoles are in the market to make money, and they can't make money if PlayStation can't make money off an Xbox player if crossplay is in every game. Because an Xbox player will have no reason to ever buy a PS4. Vice versa for an Xbox player. They will never make money off a PS4 player. They will never be able to move them over. And let's face it, while they will have some technical advantages, this one might have slightly better graphics or load time. This one might have slightly better save options or whatever. Ultimately, the game library is why we choose a system. And if everything is crossplay, we just choose a system that we already had and move forward, right? Because we can still play with all of our friends no matter where they're at. And James Bond, exactly. Grinding the gear feels like work. Munko, you seem to get more keepable items for the DZ than the raid. Yeah, but Munko, that whole thing for like the DZ dropping more better things from the raid, I'm willing to bet that it feels that way, Monkey, because you get more items from the DZ because the turnover on items is easier and the combat is easier. So you can go into the DZ for an hour or two, get 20 or 30 pieces of gear, and maybe one okay piece. You go in the raid for an hour, and you get nothing usable. It's just a waste of time. You know, one group did all landmarks, had to wait for them to come back up. In Division 2? Oh, in Division 2? Yeah. No, absolutely. But that's because nobody's PvPing, because nobody wants to PvP. Now, here's a question to the PvPers out there. Do you not want to PvP because the PvP experience itself is bad? Or do you try to, but you find the people that are in the Dark Zone just don't want to PvP? And do you think those people then are PvE farmers that just don't want to fight? Or are they PvPers that don't want to PvP because the PvP sucks? We want different things because they separated PvP and PvE more in Division 2. So now the devs have to cater to two groups of players where Division 1 was... Well, that's the whole thing. Like, they wanted the Dark Zone to be PvEVP. And I think in the first game they had it nailed better. Now the Dark Zone is swayed way more towards PvE. I honestly think they need less PvE stuff in there to do. They need stuff to keep PvPers busy in between fighting each other, and to give them like a way to get in and get started getting loot, to get extractions going right. You need that catalyst. And so you need some NPCs or landmarks in there, but the more stuff they throw in like that, the more it attracts PvEers that don't want to PvP. Well, and that's the other thing, you mentioned clan jumping. That's the other thing they haven't even mentioned is the vendors. They haven't mentioned anything at all about fixing vendors. They haven't mentioned anything at all about fixing NPCs. Like, all of these damage changes or these gear... Oh, shit, I forgot to talk about that, too. All of these gear changes... They haven't mentioned how they're going to change the game world itself or the NPCs to make up for that, right? And they're going to have to, because they're going to be effed. It's going to be a really... I feel this game going back to... Destiny 2's going in the right direction. Division 2's going somewhere. I completely agree with you, Ghost. I completely agree with you, man. Destiny 2... I try not to be hyperbolic. I don't think I've ever been as excited for a Destiny 2 expansion. No, that's not true. Forsaken, I was ridiculously excited for Forsaken, and it totally paid off. Shadowkeep, I'm really, really excited about. And not just Shadowkeep, but the future of Destiny 2. That new Viadoc was amazing. And, like, Destiny 2 feels like they know where they're going now. They know what they're doing, and they're just going. And they've got... I was making this comparison to somebody I was talking to this week. Yo, Red Fantera, what is up? I love your friggin' name, man. Thank you very much for hopping on the couch and chilling with us. Is the Perfect Gear version going to drop in the DZ? Is that the plan to get more people in there? Well, they said that they were going to have, not all of the Perfect Gear is going to drop in the DZ, but they said that they were going to have named items specific to the DZ. And the named items are the ones that drop the perfected gear. So, yes. That's part of the plan. I mean, that's part of the incentives that they keep talking about to get people into the DZ. But again, are those going to be, if that's a PvE talent that doesn't help much in PvP, what good does it do, right? This is why I keep saying they need PvP specific talents and PvP specific gear, including custom vanity items in the DZ that you can only get through PvP. Like they could create an entire wardrobe of vanity items that you only get for player kills, and it may not be every player kill, but let's say DJ Dizzle and I are both in the DZ, and I kill him. Cool, nothing drops. He didn't have any gear on him. Cool. Guess what? I kill him. He doesn't have any gear on him, but every now and then, boom, I get that teal drop of a new vanity item that was generated through the NPC. And now, granted, there will be people that will figure out a way to exploit that and farm their friends and get into the same instance drop group and just kill each other to get all the items. Cool, whatever. But to the people that actually want to grind that kind of stuff, it gives you an incentive to PvP. I'm not a PvP player. It just seemed like no one wanted a PvP. Hardly no farmers. People, I think, have come to the terms that the devs have shifted this game to be more of a PvE game. And that's fine, but I still think... I honestly think that what the Division 2 needs to do is, and maybe what they'll do with Division 3, is release it as a PvE game, get it nailed down, and a month or two later, release an expansion for free, the same way that Fortnite PvP or Battle Royale is free, the same way that Apex is free, and release PvP as its separate thing, balance it separately, make it its own thing. You can still have bots, you can still have some PvE in certain places, but then the focus is PvP, and you get to grind your own gear there. It's its own entity, and I truly believe that that's what this game needs. Or it needs PvE gear to be useless after a certain point in PvP in the Dark Zone. So like after, let's say, level 20, your gear is just locked at level 20. When you go into the DZ, you have to grind all new PvP gear that only works in PvP. Same 15, 20 people you meet every day. We go in, meet dudes, ask them how they're... But see, that's the thing, DJ. That then, if that new person going in is new to the DZ, they go in and they get hammered by 4 people, they're just going to leave and never come back. And that's part of the problem, too. Like... And I don't blame you guys for it, because you guys are looking for new blood. You guys are looking for new people to fight against and for new people to play against. But then those people go in and they're like they're like the new puppy at the dog pound, right? They go in and they see a scrap on the floor and they're like, oh my God, I've never gotten this treat before. And they go to get it, and all of a sudden all of the other dogs there are like, brrr. And that puppy is going to whine and cry and try to get adopted as quickly as possible and get the fuck out of there and never come back. With the new matchmaking, less PvE players will enter because I think they don't want full servers. They just want to farm in peace. I agree with you, Lumpo. They won't have a choice, though. They won't have a choice. So a side effect of that might actually be to get more PvPers in there. So that might work, honestly. It might not be a double-edged sword. If more PvE players, Lumpo, like I didn't think of that, but like if more PvE players don't go in because they don't want full servers, then that leaves the full servers of PvPers. Jotun is going to be turned off in the new raid. It should be. It honestly should be, Ghost. If they can't... I mean, it's not a new glitch. Evidently, it's been in there since the Jotun has been, but it's gotten really, really big now. It sucks in PvP, but, like, I don't know if you guys saw the Glad video, but they literally went through and melted every single boss in one phase with it. And just by throwing down a well, melee, boom, 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 Jotun, 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 dead. It's disgusting. Yeah, and that's the other thing, too, is like PvP in Destiny 2, it's been one of my, because we're talking about different genres and like incentivizing PvP in Division 2. In Destiny 2, I don't like Crucible at all. I can have fun in it. I can jump in because it's all it is, and I know it's going to be 10 minutes of me sucking, and I can make myself look like an idiot because I suck. And every now and then I'll have moments of pseudo-brilliance, right? I can't even say moments of pseudo-brilliance. I will have moments of a light bulb that hasn't quite yet burned out. But I can make it fun and entertaining for a little bit, but then I just get bored with it, and I get really irritated. And the thing that sucks about Destiny 2 is it forces you, as you're leveling up, as you're doing certain quests, to PvP. And if you don't like PvP, like right now there's a gun in Division 2, or in Destiny 2, called the Recluse. It's, bar none, bottom line, the best gun in the entire game for PvE. You watch Dado, you watch Glad, you watch any of these people that are doing raid one or day one raid clears, they're running Recluse. You watch them do time things, they're running Recluse. It is best gun in the damn game, and you have to play competitive PvP in order to get it. It's stupid. And there's so many people that are like paying other people to get it, or having their friends get it for them, or like whatever. They're like, so many people have it, and it's the best gun in the game. Division 2, at least to their credit, doesn't force you to do that, because that shit irritates the bejesus out of me. Yo, what's up, Neuronics? How are you doing today, dude? As a PvE player, there's currently zero incentive to go into the DZ. Whatever gear drops, I can get in safety as well. And Neuronics, I had touched on that when I was doing my talk, because I tend to agree. I've said for the longest time, if you want to get my ass in the DZ, you got to give me a reason to get there, because PvP isn't going to be the reason I'm going to go in the DZ. And they did that with the Pestilence, right? They dropped the Pestilence. It was Dark Zone only. After a while, I finally was like, you know what? I want to get all the exotics. I'm going to go get it. Went in, grinded for an hour, got it extracted, got the fuck out. I haven't been back to the DZ since. So, like, the problem is they can't keep incentivizing PvE players to get in there, which is why the state of the game was so disappointing, because they need to incentivize PvPers to get into the Dark Zone in PvP, and the only way to do that is to fix the PvP experience, and they haven't even mentioned how or if they're even looking into doing that. Here's the thing. I honestly believe survival's coming. I think it's coming. I think we need to stop asking for it. At this point, they know we want it. It's either coming or it's not. I really wish that they would just come out and say, even if it's the big thing for episode 3 and they're just trying to keep it, under wraps for right now so they can have a big release. I really wish they'd say, look, guys, survival's coming. We're not going to tell you when. We're not going to tell you where until we're ready. It's coming. Cool. Shut up about it. Because honestly, every single state of the game thing, just having survival spammed is just so irritating. But I agree, there needs to be more modes and not just 4v4 elimination. Like, that ain't gonna cut it, bro. Like, I don't even know why I just said that, because I hate that term. But like, I completely agree. I honestly think they need a free-for-all mode. They need a free-for-all mode that, or a solo-only queue DZ where PvP is just enabled. I still go with Rogue 2.0 failed. And it was okay. It was better than the original system for a lot of people, not for others. I still think they need a PvP toggle when you go in the DZ. If you don't want a PvP, you toggle yourself PvE. Boom, you go into a PvE server, and there you are. You can toggle PvP, but when you do, you get server transferred to a PvP server. And then if you're on a PvP server, it works just like it does now. Or no, I'm sorry. It works just like the original DZ did, where you can shoot anybody at any time, and that flags you as Rogue. No Rogue 2.0, no anything. That's the PvP servers. You flag it before you go in. Survival's coming. I guess it'll be in year 2 because everybody has to pay for it. I don't agree with that. I honestly think Survival's coming either in episode 3 or maybe that'll be the big year 2 expansion. I think that would be a ginormous mistake. I really, really do. I think if they bring back Survival, it's got to be in episode 2 or 3. I don't think we're getting it in 3 or in 2. I honestly think we're going to get an underground type thing. I said it since they announced the names of the expansions. I thought we were going to get, I'm going to be honest, I thought Expeditions were going to be underground, but then when Expeditions turned out not to be underground. I assume the Pentagon is going to be the new version or the new evolution of underground, right? Because the Pentagon is essentially a maze and nobody knows how big it actually is underground. So it just makes sense that Pentagon would be underground. And then I think we get survival in episode 3. If they release survival and force people to play it or to pay for it, man, I mean, people will. I mean, shit, I will. Survival was awesome. And they'll make their money off of it, but I also think they're going to ruffle a shit ton of feathers with it. Yeah, Neuronics, it's kind of like, to me, what's going to happen, oh, hold on, DJ Dizzle, PvP problems are mostly fundamental bugs, glitches, OP skills, that's a real problem, desync, bullet, oh, okay. Fair enough. Same goes for heals. Those aren't being addressed. Well, see, that's the thing. Like, I didn't know that bullet registration was an issue in PvP, to be honest. I know that they've talked about it a lot in PvE, which I've never noticed it, but it is what it is. And that's what they should have. That's what the state of the game, I think, when they came out and they said PvP state of the game, the changes that we're doing, blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of people, myself included, expected those were the things we were going to hear about, how the core PvP experience is going to be made better moving forward. And it wasn't any of that. It was just PvE incentives to go into the Dark Zone, which Neuronics, you're 100% right. They need it. But at the same time, it's hurting them because all it's doing is incentivizing PvEers that don't have interest in PvPing to go into the Dark Zone for their PvE stuff. And then that's frustrating PvPers even more because then the PvPers are there and can't get the PvP they want. And then the PvEers that do go in, if they do get ganked or they get smoked by the thirsty mob or the people that are like starving for PvP and they get obliterated constantly, they're just going to leave and never come back, which then overall requires more PvE incentives to get those people back in. And it's just a vicious cycle. They need to fix the PvP experience itself at its core before they do anything else, including incentivizing everybody in there. It's why I keep railing on RNG. I said in my video that like RNG and gear ultimately is what needs to be fixed first, because if you fix PvP and it's a perfect, let's say they fix PvP and it's perfect and people love to PvP. There will be some people that PvP simply to PvP, but ultimately they will stop doing that if the gear, the loot, and the RNG is terrible. RNG in this game is the thing that needs to be focused on, and it's the thing in this game that's been ignored. Bottom line, that is the most important thing. The shitty RNG, the terrible rolls, the terrible loot that we get, the amount of trash loot we get is the problem with this game, and that needs to be fixed before anything else. Only reason why you go in the Dark Zone is the easiest place to get DH tech for your hardwired set. You know, I still haven't even, like, made that set. There was something, now it's to the point where they announce, oh, right, Neuronics, that's kind of the same thing where you say now it's to the point where they'll announce survival and we all just go, yay, and or like, finally, instead of like getting excited. That's where Destiny 2, in my opinion, messed up with E3 last year with Forsaken, was because they showed you the death of Cade 3 months before you saw the death of Cade. And I remember railing about this the day that Forsaken launched, and I was playing through the campaign, it happened, and I was like, this would be one of the most emotional cutscenes in a video game and shocking cutscenes in a video game I ever would have seen, and they literally spoiled it 3 months ago. And so you're right. They run the risk of that if they announce it now, then in 3 months when they're like, yeah, you're finally getting it, people are going to be like, yeah, we know, cool, get it here. And so I get that, and that's why they're not saying it. But at the same time, by not saying it, they're just fueling everybody wanting it even more. I just honestly wish they would come out right now and say, we're working on it, we don't know when it's coming out, or shut the fuck up about it, you're not getting survival. Like, I just want to, the people that constantly just rail about it irritate me so much more than the fact that the mode isn't in the game in the first place. 1DZ for PvE, they don't need a PvE Dark Zone. Everything everything that's in the DZ for PvE is already in the Light Zone. Like, we don't need a PvE DZ. It's completely useless in Division 2. Everything you can do in the Dark Zone, you can do in the Light Zone in one form or another, except for PvP. So if you don't want a PvP, don't go in the Dark Zone. If you want a PvP, go in the Dark Zone. Like, that's, yeah. It just, this idea in Division 2 of a PvE Dark Zone blows my mind, and I've yet to hear a good argument for it. So I'd love to hear why people think that we need a PvE Dark Zone. How would survival work this time around? What do you mean? Probably with the DC-62 or whatever it is, with the yellow gas. It's probably in a highly... I saw a suggestion, completely agree with it, thought it was a good thing. Instead of the cold coming at you and you having to gear up against the cold, I think you get put into an area that's completely contaminated with DC-62, and you have to keep looting filters because your filter keeps burning out. And so, like, you get a filter, and that starts burning out, and then the longer you go, the thicker it gets on the outside for some reason, and the more that affects you, which is what forces you to the middle. Or, instead of that, what is that game? There was a new Battle Royale-ish type game that came out that has like an Eye of the Storm, and it moves around the map. Do that, where like each map has specific eyes that are already there. You spawn in random locations, and you have to go to those for some reason. Meanwhile, you're looting a filter for a mask because you're constantly in DC-62 and you're constantly at risk of dying. Yeah, I can't speak on the NPCs in the DZ or in the Occupied. I've literally stepped foot in the Occupied Dark Zone once. Yeah, I mean, PvP or Mr. PvE, everything that we hate in somebody else, we really like to do ourselves, right? I mean, that's the exact same thing. Didn't know Division 2 had RNG. I mean, it's got something. I mean, it definitely randomly generates numbers. We know that. It doesn't have good. It's no good for anyone. PvE players get shit and stress they don't like. PvP players get people running away from combat. So yeah, dedicated PvP for DZ makes sense. Full separation. But they need to. They absolutely, and that's why I said Rogue 2.0 over time, I think, has done more damage than it did good. It was a good fix for the time because the DZ in Division 1 was the only place to get gear sets for a long period of time, so it was the best farming place. That's not the case anymore. That is not the case in Division 2. So we don't need a Rogue 2.0. If you want a PvP, go to the Dark Zone. If you don't want a PvP, don't go to the Dark Zone. If you want to feel that tension, go to the Dark Zone, but then don't fucking cry when people fucking kill you. Like, that's bottom line. That's the stance I think the devs need to take. It gives that excitement back to the people that want to flirt with the excitement, like the new BDSMers that I was talking about. It gives that excitement back. And then it gives PvP players that just want to run around and gank people, gives them shit to do. It gives PvP White Knighters shit to do because then they can run around and protect people, right? God, that would be so cool for roleplay too, man. You could actually start like a 3-man like A team that like, you know, Mr. Commendation helps out people doing all of these things. If you haven't checked him out on Twitter, definitely do it. He helps people get raid clears. I think he's helped like 150 people get raid clears, help people with all kinds of commendations. How cool would that be? You know, they've got the Shepherd system now, right? How cool would that be if like it was just a free-for-all and there's some like A team of 3 PvPers that really are really, really good and like, yo, you want to go in the Dark Zone? We're going to protect you. And then they like protect you as you go through. Like that would be a fun game mode, right? Protect the president. They need to talk to fucking paintball courts, right? There's a paintball game called Protect the President that if you go in and you've got like say 16 people, you get a team of 4 or 5 that each have 1 life but they've got more armor and they have to protect the president, and the president can't attack. They don't have guns. The entire job or the entire point of that game mode is for the president to still be alive at the end, and then his team of protectors has to kill the attackers. The attackers have to try to kill him. That would be amazing in Division 2. And it would totally fit with the freaking system. How about a PvP raid? Dude, Burns, I don't know if you're trolling or not, but I cannot imagine something that would cause more of a shitstorm than we've seen this week than PvP in a raid. I remember Destiny 2, I think it was Sir Gathalion, or King Gathalion mentioned mixing in Gambit into a raid, where as you were, or mixing in raid bosses into Gambit, and like how much that would fuck with people. Or like in the middle of a raid, let's say my team is doing the raid, Gathalion's team is doing the raid, and at some point we get teleported into each other's raids to like buff their enemies or something in a world's first race. Like, can you imagine how crazy that would be? Yo, Zincy, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate you hopping on the largest couch on Twitch and sitting with us. I appreciate it. The couch is protected, and it is washed every single day. Neuronics with the brand new tier 1 sub. Dude, thank you so much, man. You kick ass. I appreciate the bejesus out of you. I really appreciate you on Twitter. I've seen your engagements. I really, really like your calm-headedness. And like your approach to things. Thank you so much, man. Subscription means the world to me. Everybody, please get some hype in chat. The hype command is working for Neuronics. And Neuronics, welcome to the Absolute Badasses. Dude, you kick ass, man. Thank you so much. Enjoy your brand new sub badge that will grow as you do with the community. Starts off as white with a very short beard. The longer you stay here, the longer you keep your sub up. The beard starts to grow in nicely. You get some cooler colors. Enjoy your emotes, showing that you are living the dream anywhere on Twitch, and that I love you and that you rock. Thank you very much, man. Wasn't the president a piece of shit in this game? Yes, he was, but that's why you don't call him the president. You just say protect the VIP or something, right? The game mode stays the same, but yeah, the president should be shot in the head. And that's another aspect of this game I don't even want to get into. And I need to do the prestige callus checkpoint. Depending on when you start, I could probably help, but I don't know. I mean, I'll probably wrap this up in another 20, 30 minutes or so. So depending on when you start, I've never done it, but I'm down. No need for content, you need people. Yeah, no, the DZ doesn't need content. But you won't. Mr. PvP or Mr. PvE, if you add more players into the DZ with content, you're going to get people that don't want to PvP. Like, that's the thing. They're trying to incentivize people to get into the Dark Zone, but they're incentivizing the wrong people. They're incentivizing the people that don't want to PvP. You need to incentivize the PvPers to PvP, and you do that through fixing bugs and issues, like essentially fixing the core experience and giving PvPers something that you can't get anywhere else. Have an entire vanity set for PvP. Have PvP specific gear sets. Have PvP specific talents on gear. PvP specific gear. I'd be happy with D1, DZ, and with D2 mechanics. Oh, see, I read that wrong at first, Burns. I read that the other way, that you would like DZ to DZs with D1 raid, or D1 mechanics, Division 1 mechanics, and I was going to say no. I honestly think a lot of the rose-colored glasses going on about like looking back at Division 1 PvP as being so awesome is only because Division 2 PvP sucks so bad. Is it challenging for you, Mr. PvE? Is Occupied DZ challenging because the mobs are tougher? But that's the thing. Like, there needs to be modes like that, because even if, Mr. PvE, even if you are a PvE player and you had that mode either in the Dark Zone or just in its own mode, you might play it as a protector or even as an attacker. Like, it would just be fun. And that's what this game missing. This game at its core is missing fun. It's almost as bad as EVE Online. It's a spreadsheet inducing nightmare. that you don't know what's going to fall on what, and your RNG is fucking terrible, and you need to grind 3,000 pieces to try to get one good piece for your build, it's a chore to play this game, which is why I'm not playing it right now. The Nick Dice. Every DZ landmark should have a chance to drop every exotic in the game. So you can farm for a while, loot an exotic you've been grinding for. Now it's time to extract that exotic to build tension for the person trying to extract it. And everyone else will be curious about what they're extracting. I mean, I do admit that like they need to encourage more extractions. I think the idea of allowing non-contaminated loot in the DZ was a giant stupid mistake. But every landmark already has a chance to drop every exotic. Don't all named NPCs now have a chance to drop exotics? And the landmarks have named NPCs, so can't they already drop every exotic? Except for the raid bearer, or eagle bearer should stay raid exclusive. Sorry. Mr. PvE, I think I'm the type, I don't hate to grind, but I hate to feel like my grind isn't fun, and that's what Division 2 to me feels like. The combat isn't fun enough to keep me hooked. It's either way too easy or way too hard. There's no middle ground. And so it just doesn't seem fun to grind. Like, I jumped on Destiny 2 yesterday, and I had 1 hour to do like 6 different things, and so it was like, oh shit, I gotta go do those, right? There was timed bounties that I had to do, and so like I had to go through and do those, and then it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go run around and do these. Like I go to Titan, I'm trying to get more alkaline dust, so like I go to Titan, and that's just a grind. It's like 3 little missions, but it's still fun. It's just fun to shoot shit and kill shit, and that doesn't feel like it in Division 2. It's either super punishing or super easy. There's no middle ground, it feels like. Since you're new to Division 2, have played Division 1, have I got any good tips? Enjoy 1 through 30 and World Tier 1 through 4. Enjoy it. Take as long as you can to get through it, Zincy. And in all seriousity, take as long as you can to get to World Tier 5. Do not rush it. Enjoy it. Play with all the different guns. Learn all the different talents. Take your time, because 1 through 30 is awesome. That experience is great. Don't rush through the story. Although I'll get into story beef I have in a minute, but take your time, get through it, get to World Tier 1, enjoy it, because that World Tier 1 to 4, while it does it's pretty monotonous, right? It's just do these 2 missions that you've already done, but do them in a different way, blah, 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 and unlock it. It's still fun. Once you get to World Tier 5 and you get to endgame, the grind, I'd rather punch myself in the balls. Many PvE players just dislike the DZ term in general. With something a little more they may be willing to. Right, and that's the thing. They don't want to just try straight up PvP. Although I do think more PvE players played Last Stand in Division 1 than went into the Dark Zone. So I do think more PvE players will get into just straight up PvP, but I just think the PvP in this game sucks right now and is broken. They should add 1 huge DZ, then compare the original DZ numbers and the new DZ. They really have nothing to lose now, but for some reason they think smaller DZs. Well, I completely agree. I completely agree that they should go back to 1 large DZ. They can do it in a story way. They can say that these DZs have been cleared out, or that we're doing something, and add PvE in there also to like clear it out. But then, yeah, do 1 large PvE. I have no problem with that. People wanted 60 frames. 2 years later now, it just drives people don't care about it. I mean, that's going to happen with survival. That's what we were talking about earlier. You thought it was just the Pestilence? No, the Pestilence is the only one that you can find in the DZ. The Pestilence is exclusive to the DZ right now, but I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong on this because I haven't played the game in a month, but I'm pretty sure that when they made the changes to exotics, that any exotic could drop from any named enemy. I think that still is the same in the Dark Zone. Can DJ Dizzo, can you speak to that, or Mr. PvE, since you grind the Dark Zone a lot? Can you find the other exotics in the Dark Zone now, or is it still only the Pestilence? I could be wrong on that. Well, that's the other thing, Grill Sergeant. You're right. I meant to add that addendum onto that, but you're absolutely right. Like, it can be fun to grind. It can be fun to play because, honestly, I did it for, 4 or 5 months in this game. I grinded it every single day until it became a chore because it literally gets you nowhere. So, yeah, that's a really, really good nuance to that statement. You picked up Negotiator's Dilemma piece from the DZ cache. Always thought that was raid specific. No, Negotiator's Dilemma and the raid specific gear sets have been added into the general loot pool, except for the chest piece and backpack for both. The chest piece and backpack for the raid exclusive sets are staying raid exclusive. All of the other pieces from those sets will drop in the open world and in the DZ now as part of the general loot pool. I wouldn't mind the Eagle Bearer being DZ2, just a low drop chance. I think the Eagle Bearer being raid exclusive is totally fine. I think what they need to do is fix the raids so that it's more accessible to more people. I still think even story mode raid, you should be able to get one key. I think the lockbox at the end of it should be there, and you get one key per week. Because right now, if you run the raid, you have one character, you run the raid, you get, 4 keys? It takes you 5 to open that chest at the end. If you get one key per week at the end of a story mode raid, that would allow you do the story mode, then you go in, you do the regular raid, you can unlock that chest every week for a Chains of the Eagle Bearer. If you don't run the regular raid, it would still take you 5 weeks of playing, 5 playthroughs through the story mode raid to be able to open that chest and try to get the Eagle Bearer. I still think that they should. I tend to agree, Burns. I agree, which is why I said they need to just get it out there now that they're doing it. That they've got survival on the way so that people at least know. It'll stop all this bullshit talk about it. People will go, cool, we know it's coming, we know it's coming. And then when it comes out, people will be excited because they'll know it's coming. But the problem is now is with people not knowing if it's coming, it just gets exhausting. I think people try to checkpoint camp, and that's why they put in the turrets. But then I think the turrets pissed people off. Pestilence can raid in the raid. Unless they added it to the raid, it couldn't before. Unless they added it to the raid, which I don't see them doing that. I hadn't heard that yet. Only the LMG from your experience? Okay, I could be wrong on that then. I thought all exotics could drop from any named enemy. Okay, yeah, I'm probably definitely wrong then. And then, yeah, I think that should be something they should do. I think DZ named enemies should absolutely drop exotics. 100%. Any DZ named enemy should be able to drop any exotic outside the Eagle Bearer at the same drop chance that any other named enemy does. Or actually at a lower drop chance because the DZ enemies respawn faster, or the DZ named enemies respawn faster and there's more of them than you can find in the light zone. Maybe it was bounties that can't. I can't remember. Legit. 3 DZs that have been fully taken over by Black Tusk. You have to go in, clear one. Each DZ one by one forces Black Tusk to retreat north, leaving one big dark zone at the top. Yeah, I mean, something like that. Completely, totally easy. That's why I said combining PvE into the PvP experience to kind of bring people together to do that. And you can make it a big-ass community challenge, just like Destiny did 2 weeks ago with the community challenge where we had to kill 300 million friggin' Hive on Mars, whatever. They could do that. And, it could be a community challenge. Kill 200,000 or 300 million, friggin' Dark Zone or Black Tusk or whatever. And if you do this, you will unlock this, and obviously they're going to unlock it anyway, but you got to do the community challenge to really incentivize people to do it. Yeah, I think that idea is great, Burns. Can I call you Mr. Burns, by the way? Just because now every time I see your name, I'm just going to, and I almost want to be like, yes, every single time you say something cool. I just hate the key system in the raid. You should just receive the chest at the end. I disagree with you, Nick. I do disagree with you on that because I think there needs to be an incentive to run the raid more than once in a week. And I know that the chests or the keys don't necessarily do that, but it gives you a chance. It gives you a second chance to get the chest. What I do think they should do, though, is add gear set pieces into that chest so that that roll either god rolls. Destiny 2 does this thing called curated rolls, where they're not necessarily god rolls because they're not always the best roll, but it's a curated roll that is a set roll that has, I mean, all the stats are pretty much set, but it has set perks. So in this game, it would be like, let's say, an aces and eights chest piece that drops with specific rolls. They could do that. They could do that for each of the gear sets. They could do that for the backpacks. And then they could do that for the Eagle Bearer, and you could even drop curated weapon rolls in there. And when you open that chest, even if you don't get the Eagle Bearer, you get one of these other items, right? So that way it gives you more things to collect, and you're guaranteed to at least get something out of the chest. No, fair enough. I won't do it. I won't do that. See, Destiny 2's, the raid, in my opinion, that did loot the most perfect in Destiny 2, the incursions in Division 2, whatever, was Wrath of the Machine in Destiny. If you guys don't know that raid, if you've never played it, each boss in that raid had a chance to drop one piece of armor and one weapon, and it was the same piece of armor and it was the same weapon, but they had random rolls. So let's say the first boss, and I can't remember which boss dropped which, but let's say the first boss drops legs and an autocannon, or a hand cannon rather. You run the raid once on your character, you get one of those. Cool. You're kind of F now, right? Because if you only have one character, you only get loot once per raid. But every time you run the raid, you get these fragments every time, even repeated times in a week. When you kill that boss, you get these key fragments. Once you get, I think it was 20 key fragments, you then go to an NPC, you trade those in to get a chest key. And then every time you kill one of these bosses in the raids, it spawns a chest. That chest gives you one piece of loot from that boss's loot pool, guaranteed. So you open that chest, boom, you get either the hand cannon or the legs with a new random roll. So let's say now you get the legs. Oh, that's sweet, but this isn't the roll that I want. Cool, well, at least now you've got the appearance item, right? You've got the legs that look super dope that you really, really wanted. You can wear those out PvE because it really doesn't matter. And then you can keep running the raid to get more key fragments to keep unlocking that chest to try to get the legs, like the roll that you want to get. And it incentivized you to run the raid multiple times and incentivized you to help other people run the raid so that you could get through it quicker. And it incentivized you to want to get that perfect roll. And it incentivized you to complete the loot pool and to get all of the items. Yo, Toronto Steve, thank you very much for following. I appreciate you jumping on the largest couch on Twitch and hanging out with us today. How is your weekend going so far? And so I want that to happen in Division 2. I want Destiny 2 to do it, but I want that to happen in Division 2 also, right? Like, each boss should have specific drops. Each boss should have a chance to drop specific drops. And then if you don't get it, there's some kind of key system. So that's why I like the key system in the Division 2 raid. I just think that they need to add, the chest shouldn't only drop the Eagle Bearer, because then it's just, if you keep getting keys, you grind it out. You can only run the raid once per week because you don't get keys any other time that you run it. So any other time you do it, you're just grinding for shit loot, which ultimately, if they do what I've said and raise the floor the floor of attribute rolls based on difficulty, then it would give you a reason to run the raid because you're still getting loot from the trash mobs. And then, if you collect those keys, then you can unlock that key at the end. I also think that key, that chest should be able to be open more than once per week. So if you're, well, maybe not. That could have some bad times. Yeah, incursions are basically strongholds. I completely agree. Incursions are basically just strongholds. They just need more. They need to either be tougher. I mean, they're pretty close. They don't have the mechanics. Strongholds are basically just tough missions. I get where Mr. PvE is coming from, because they don't have the mechanics the way that incursions did. But ultimately, the mechanics in incursions, I mean, you got to figure, the first incursion, Falcon Lost was literally one room, one boss, 15 waves of just bullshit. And with no real mechanics. I mean, every 4 waves you had a mechanic that you had to do, but it wasn't that great. Mission gear drops, but the community cried about it back then. What were the mission gear drops? I don't remember what those were. Mr. PvE. You're going in. Dude, have fun, Burns. Might make a forum post, but everyone is still salty about the Eagle Bearers, so posts just get filled by salty beeps. Dude, if you want to make them more salty, send them to my YouTube video about the Eagle Bearer. Because if people are upset about the Eagle Bearer nerf, and if they act like dillholes about it, they're going to be super salty about my video. I don't want to say I'm for the... There's that if you guys haven't seen it. Yo, Burns, thank you very much for the follow. I almost did it, but you said not to. I almost went, excellent, but I didn't do it. I appreciate the follow. Thank you very much for jumping on the couch and hanging out with us. It is a magic couch, and it is the largest couch on Twitch. So I appreciate it today. Where do I got to go? I forgot to add this to my YouTube link. That's what I am doing because I forgot to set up the right command. I am trying to get more YouTube content out there and more regularly also. So if you guys haven't followed yet, you might want to. I'm trying to get at least one video a week up there. Some of it's going to be Division. Once Shadowkeep launches, I'm sure some of it's going to be Destiny. But ultimately, I still want Division 2 to be good. Like, I want it to be great. I just don't think it can be until they fix the RNG. Gear sets were introduced. You have to fashion Falcon Lost for a backpack and a holster. Oh, gotcha. I see the problem with that at the time, Mr. PvE, was that the incursion sucked. You needed the gear sets to do the incursion. And yeah, you had the 4 pieces, right? Striker, Sentry. I'm going to try to remember them all. Not Reclaimer, but the skill-based one, Tacticians, and Nomad, right? So you had those 4. Though they only dropped in the incursion, or they only dropped in Falcon Lost, or they dropped with the named bosses in the DZ. The problem is that you almost needed those gear sets to do those incursions when they came out. So you needed the gear sets to do the incursions, but then you got the gear sets from the incursion. So like that's why people hated it so much, because there was no way for a solo player or really a casual player at all. And I don't want to get into the whole casual versus hardcore. I've always considered myself a hardcore casual, but like, and we don't want to casualify the game too much. I totally understand that, but you also can't do it where only the hardcore players or only the grouped players get stuff. For the most part, an item every now and then, yes. The Eagle Bearer only being raid exclusive, totally cool with that. I think it should be. But you can't put all of the gear sets in one activity. If they would have done that and maybe spread out, like what I thought they should have done at the time was have all of the gear sets in that raid or in the incursion. You do the incursion, you get a chance to get one of those drops. Then I think each other mission, Lexington, not Brother Rice, I can't remember the name of it, but each mission gets one piece that can randomly drop from the final boss throughout the week, and then those rotate every week, right? So maybe Lexington this week is running a striker chest. So if you need that striker chest, you can run it. If you get it, you get it. You can continuously run it to get a better roll. But then that would have, it doesn't matter. Like, that's what I think they should do. We know everyone's in there now. Very few people are probably in there now. If you find anybody, you'll probably find a few. Changing the Eagle Bearer's talents, though, basically buff the Eagle Bearer. I think it's in a great place. I completely agree, Nick. I mean, here's the thing. In my video, I go through it. That, like, you can't... I use the 4-finger method, and my mic is in my way right now, so I can't do this as well. But I made a sexual joke, too, right? About, ooh, these are the other ARs. But, like, essentially, if the Eagle Bearer is far and away better than everything else, they nerf it a little bit to bring it closer in. But then everybody was saying no, nerf or buff everything else. Cool. If you nerf this 15% or you buff all of this 15%, either way, it's the same result. But the problem is if you leave this up here, then you have to balance the entire game to that gun, because that gun and the people that own that gun are going to be trivializing NPC or PvE content. So the way that they did it, I think, was beautiful. It buffed it because now its effect is buffed. So if you play with it and you play with it well, you are buffed. But the base damage is down, which does not trivialize content as much. Like, you still have to play well to do it. You don't just mindlessly go through and do shit. Although it's bugged to all live in hell right now in the PTS, so be careful. But back, holster came from the incursion. Oh, was that what it was? I thought at launch all of the pieces came from there. I thought they changed. No, not at launch they didn't. They changed that later on. They changed that so that you could focus grind individual pieces, because once they got to, I think, 1.4 or 1.5 and they had all of these gear sets that were dropping from these things, the loot pools had just gotten too big. They needed a way to focus individual pieces. I think that happened at 1.6. It was 1.5, 1.6, something like that. Dude, Mr. PvE, have a great one, man. I love you. You fucking rock, dude. We rely on the high base damage for the gun. Get good, scrub! No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I hate that term. Ephraim, here's the thing with that. I do think, and I've always thought that it's kind of stupid that game developers put more recoil on guns on console that are harder to control. The recoil on console, I think, still needs to be worked on somewhat. And I don't have the Eagle Bearer, so I don't know what the recoil is like on that gun. But I've never really had problem hitting too many headshots. Like, I can't hit headshots with the laser type precision that you do, or that people do on PC. But I've never, I mean, even with my LMG, which is far more floaty than any assault rifle, I don't have too many problems hitting headshots. So what I would suggest is maybe reducing your sensitivity a little bit, and then that will actually reduce the effects of the recoil on your controller. Like, while you're using your controller, I should say. You won't be able to spin as fast or to move targets as fast, but it will definitely help you hit more headshots and keep the gun on the head, because each tiny overcorrection won't or each tiny correction won't overcorrect it as much as you might run into if you run on a more sensitive settings. Carbine 7, is that the new gun that they released? Because I saw that in the patch notes, and I think I've played with one, but I can't remember. Dude, my mic got all sorts of excited throughout the course of this stream. It like started off down here, and now it was like 12 to 6 way up in my face. Where's the Carbine 7? That's that new gun, I think, isn't it? 8% damage increase. EB would be more beneficial on PC. Oh, I don't doubt that at all. I don't doubt that it'll be more beneficial on PC. I just think, relatively speaking, if you're comparing EB on PC to console, yes, that buff will help it more there. But if you're comparing it to on console to all of the other guns, it's still getting a buff when compared to the other guns, right? It's still going to be better. The recoil didn't get changed. So if you're already using it now, I know that, like, the base damage got nerfed, so you do kind of have to get more headshots. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be more of a buff on PC than it is on console, but I think ultimately it's still a buff. And it sucks that like they changed it, but ultimately, if it can help the overall balance of the game, and if it helps other guns feel more useful, I'm for it for the most part, really. Because the whole point, the whole thing is, I don't mind god guns being in the game. I don't mind guns that, you know, pinnacle items of that sort. I do not in any way, shape, or form mind that kind of stuff being in the game. Not at all. I don't mind it. And honestly, I like it. I think it needs to be in there. But where I do think the problem comes in is when the game has to be balanced to that item at the expense of everybody else that plays the game, especially when that pinnacle item is owned by such a tiny player base, or tiny percentage of the player base, right? You've got the majority of people that haven't even played the raid yet, let alone gotten the Eagle Bearer. And if that gun is too OP'd, then the developers moving forward have to balance the content based on that gun. And if that happens, everybody that doesn't have it then suffers and has a worse experience. Yo, Benz, thank you very much for hopping on the couch and chilling with us today. You kick ass. I appreciate you. It is the largest couch on Twitch, but we always have room for more butts. So thank you very much for putting yours on ours. Carbine 7, M4, L86, Vectors. My only problem... Okay, I'm going to go one-on-one on these. Carbine 7, I don't remember that gun. The M4, I hope the police M4 is good. I really wish the police M4 and the regular M and the lightweight M4, whatever it is. Well, I guess it is only the police M4 now, right? I think. I always wish that gun had the same recoil pattern because since my first day in Division 1, the look of my character has been that of somebody I wanted with a police M4. I've always loved that gun, or an M16, either one, but preferably the police M4. I've always loved the look of that gun, and that to me, like the way our characters are, like on the street and all of that, the way that gun looks to me like somebody that's like fighting in the streets. A well-supplied person fighting in the streets. Like, that's what that gun really, really, really appears like to me. So, I want it so bad. And I want it to be good, but I don't know. I don't know if that's the one or if it's the lightweight. Carbine 7. Was the Carbine 7 the one that they added with Kenley College? Look at the M4, 10% damage increase. I mean, honestly, I'm more excited about the TAR 21. I love the CTAR, man. I love that gun in the beta. And even in live game up to like level 30, dude, the CTAR felt amazing. It just, that magazine was so small. It felt like an SMG with the accuracy and range of an AR, which was awesome. So that gun getting a damage increase is super nice. I wish the G36 could come back, man. I'm going to be honest, even though I just went against the whole, buff everything with my Eagle Bearer argument, I always wanted them in Division 1 to buff everything up to the G36 because I love the way the G36 felt when it first came out. It was so OP. But man, it was like a laser gun and it sounded cool and it looks cool with a clear mag where you can see the bullets. Try the F2K. What's the F2K? Oh, I don't like that gun at all. The F2K I do not like. The F2K fires too fast. Because the F2K, that's the shield splinterer gun. I don't like the look. No, I'm sorry. That's the one I can't stand the way it looks. And ultimately, I'm a video game action RPG Barbie player more than I am Top Gun player. So, like, if my shit doesn't look good, I don't play good. That's why I use an M60 over the M249, to be completely honest. If the M249 looked better than the M60, I'd probably use the M249. Already got your white carbine? Nice. Super nice. What was I talking about? There was something I was talking about before, and I lost my train of thought. Was be good for crit builds. Yeah, but if you're building a crit build, well, wouldn't you just want to go SMG? Stats are trash. I'm going to use it. Dude, I'm telling you, Seagirl. I'm telling you. It's been killing me in Destiny because I've been running the tributes for the tribute hall, and that requires you to wear the Leviathan armor set while you're doing a bunch of stuff. and I despise that armor set on Hunter. I like the arms, but the rest of it looks terrible. And it kills me that so much of my playtime has been taken up, A, playing Gambit, which I hate, but B, having to wear this shitty-ass armor that I can't stand. It could look like a lollipop for all. See, and I'm the exact opposite, man. I gotta look cool, dude. I've gotta look good. We can handle it. It's sad to see they failed the overall PvP. I completely agree, Ephraim. Like, they need the overhaul PvP. I thought that's what we were going to get. And I do think the unique talents on the gear is ultimately, my opinion, I do think it's going to hurt build diversity ultimately. I think we're going to get to a point once this launches and everybody gets in, we're going to have one, maybe two best in slot talents for every single slot, and everybody is going to be running those. I can get more damage. This is relevant. No, absolutely. I mean, I do the same kind of thing. Like Destiny, there's certain guns that I have used a lot that just look terrible because of how good they are. I don't necessarily like doing it. But it depends on what I'm doing, right? If I'm going into a raid and like we need, like, okay, we're going to prepare for the Shadowkeep day one raid. So I'm grinding that week. Shadowkeep goes live. Not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that. That's a Tuesday after I get back from TwitchCon. Shadowkeep goes live. Kyle Tom 987, thank you very much for hopping on the largest couch on Twitch and putting your butts with us. Thank you so much. How are you doing today, dude? So Shadowkeep, I'm grinding like, probably 12 to 16 hour days all of that week to get ready for the raid 1 raid. When I go into that raid, I do not care if I look like Bozo the Clown or a dumpster. I don't care. I will put shaders on it and I will make it at least all match. But like, I'm going to use what I can use or what I have to use that's going to be the best to give me the best chance of getting the 24-hour clear emblem. That's just what I'm doing. But that said, if I go on that Saturday or whatever, like after we finish the raid or after I'm doing something else, or that Sunday when I'm dicking around doing other stuff, I'm putting on my shitty armor that looks awesome. I just am. It's one of the things like Division 2 has always killed me about is because I hate the way certain pieces look. And it's one of the reasons why I'm really, really glad that pieces will drop in all slots now so I can finally get rid of my friggin' my LMG backpack because I hate the way that looks and I want to go back to my Gilligard backpack because my Gilligard backpack is slick. It looks armored. It looks super dope. Oh, looks so cool. One meta, different guns. Absolutely. It's going to be. You're going to have the only difference in the builds that everybody runs is the individual armor pieces that they run for whatever weapon they feel more comfortable with. But the talents on all those pieces are going to be the exact same. Everybody's going to be running the same 6 to 10 talents. Absolutely everybody. You might get an outlier here or there, or somebody like me that still wants to stick with Spotter because I love Spotter and I love Pulse because I have a problem. See, the stars, thank you very much for the follow. I totally appreciate it. I have a problem sometimes in the Division, especially finding enemies. My eyesight's bad. And so Pulse really helps me with that. It helps me identify where enemies are. And so I really, really like Pulse. So like there'll be a few outliers, like somebody that's going to run Spotter or somebody that's going to run Compensated or something like that. But for the most part, everybody is going to run, everybody's going to have one destructive. Everybody's going to have one hard hitting. Everybody's going to have, let's see, let's just go down the list. I don't know that everybody will run a critical because ultimately 20% crit hit damage. Actually, that might be pretty significant now if this is your only place to get it other than from gear mods and stuff and like weapon mods. See, what they need to do now that they did this is go back and change weapon mods back to what they were before so that we got more buffs but also more nerfs. I still think that was a bad move on that. But okay, everybody's going to run one devastating. Everybody will probably run surgical because 15% critical hit chance is huge. So I think everybody will run surgical unless they're running Compensated. Empowered. If they're running skill power, probably. But if not, that one may exchange out. Everybody will still run hard hitting because we'll need to. Health is dumb. The only time that somebody might run health is if they're going to run berserk. That might be an outlier from everybody running the same ones. Everybody will run hardened because percent to armor is just too damn good. Nobody will run insulated because it's stupid. Restorative, same thing, unless you're running berserk. Self-adjusting, same thing. What the fuck is armor regeneration? Like, anybody ever heard? Dude, have a good one, DJ. I appreciate it, man. Seriously, this is the way that I really like to do most of my streams. The only time that I'm not this focused on conversation is when I'm playing with other people. But even if I'm in a raid, if I'm doing raids, I definitely have to be a little bit more focused on like the group and stuff, but then I'm playing with other people. But if I'm solo, there's been multiple times, you can ask anybody that hangs out here a lot, that I've been playing and I will literally just sit down my controller and talk, because this is what I like about streaming the most. I love doing this. Unfortunately, this is also my only time to ever be able to play video games, so I have to combine both of them. Otherwise, I would totally do this every time I streamed. Dude, I really appreciate you also, DJ. I'm sorry that at the beginning you thought I was ignoring you. It's just me trying to get used to the new format, especially for the segment of This Week in Geek. I'm really trying to get to that format where I give my thoughts and then we have this big, long discussion. And I'm trying to work out a way to get comments and questions sorted out of chat. Well, they'll still be in chat, but like sorted into Discord so I don't miss anything, and then I'll get into all of them. But again, I did explain it at the beginning, but then if people came in the middle, I know that message wasn't really there. So I maybe I'll put something on screen next time or something so that people kind of have a better idea. But I'm looking to do these This Week in Geek every Tuesday. And it's not just going to be focused on Division, Destiny, or whatever. Like right now I've got screens set up for Division, Destiny, and Ghost Recon. But I'm also going to do movies, music, comics, anything that comes out big in the world of geek. Like, I just want to make it like a geek talk show, basically, or a geek interactive podcast, or like, I love talk radio, so essentially it's going to be a geeky talk radio show with my ugly face on the screen while we're talking. I think ongoing directive gear set's going to be nasty. What about this patch is going to make ongoing directive nasty? Surge is not on the list. It's not on this one. I thought Surge got something last time. And if Surge isn't on the list, it just means it didn't get buffed or fixed. But Spark is going to be a big one for anybody running skills. Spark is going to be necessary. Almost everybody's going to run Vigilance. Gain 25% weapon damage, just straight up off the top. Anybody running snipers is going to run concussion. While in cover grants 10% total weapon damage. Anybody running LMGs is going to do this. But I'm glad, the one thing I will say that I'm really glad to see that they've done with these is this grants weapon damage and requires offensive attributes. This one grants weapon damage, requires offensive attributes. What I would have liked to have seen, you guys may not have seen any of that highlighting because my screen is off from yours. What I really would have liked to see where is it? Oh, it's not on here for some reason. What I really would have liked to have seen is the chest piece talent. I'm blanking on the name of it. The chest piece talent that boosts your weapon damage. I would have liked to have seen that be attached to offensive stats. This whole thing of like building tanky stats to get weapon damage, I get the point, right? You're trying to compensate, or if you build defensively, you're trying to compensate so that you don't feel like you're shooting marshmallows. but that goes completely against what an MMORPG looter shooter is supposed to be, right? To me, you're supposed to give to get, right? If you want to get armor, you have to give up damage or you give up healing. If you want to be able to heal, then you need to not hurt as much, right? Which is why I still think with this new update, when I get back in, I do think I'm just going to start grinding new, and I'm just going to try to make a skill build and have one super offensive skill and one, super great heal, and then, weapon damage. So I really, really think ultimately this is going to hurt build diversity. And I predict that in 6 more months, when episode 3 is coming out, these are going to be reverted back. I don't think these are going to stay. But, yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for me with the Division 2 conversation today. I really, really appreciate everybody that's here. You guys are awesome. I had an amazing, amazing time hanging out with you guys today. So thank you so much. I'm not going anywhere, though. Anthony Cusano, what is up? Thank you very much for the follow. I totally, totally appreciate it. You kick ass. Thank you for jumping on the largest couch on Twitch and hanging out with us. Oh, shit, Neuronics dropping 5 subs. Visceral, See the Star, B. Diddy, Rock, Leo, and T-Weeze. Yo, everybody please reach out to Neuronics right now and say thank you and drop him some love. Please go check out.
I think you just can't bear to let a gorgeous guy like me out of your sight.
Please go check out his stream and hang out with him sometime. Drop him a like. I'm not giving you the shout out just because you dropped the subs. I'm giving you the shout out because I totally meant to earlier and I totally forgot to because I was completely distracted. But thank you so much for gifting those subs. You are an absolute badass. I appreciate you. Dude, you kick ass, man. Seriously, thank you so much to all of the new subs that just got gifted subs. Welcome to the absolute badasses. You guys are awesome. Please enjoy your sub badge that does grow as you do over time with our community. Enjoy your emotes showing that you are living the dream anywhere on Twitch and that I love you and that you rock. You guys are freaking amazing. We are going to transition right now into Destiny 2. I don't know. What am I going to do? Stuff and things. That sounds like something fun to do, right? Right? We'll do some stuff and things. So I am not going anywhere other than to the bathroom right now. Oh, wait. Why did that not switch over? There we go. Yeah, dude, we're going to do some stuff and things, Dork. How do you feel about stuff and things? Oh, wait. Not stuff and things, but stuff and things. I mean, I guess you could stuff and things. You could like stuff and things. I like stuff and things. You stuff a turkey on Thanksgiving. It's really, really good. You could stuff a Cornish game hen. That's super good. You're going to hit the alert. Dude, thank you so much, Neuronics. I hope you have a great Saturday. I hope you have a great stream next time you stream. And Dork, man, how you been, dude? What's up, Onyx? You've been doing stuff and things on the PTS. How are you enjoying the PTS? I hate to step away right when you get here. It's been like 2.5 hours. I got to go pee, and I was getting ready to transition over to some Destiny 2, but I will still be here. I just have to run to the bathroom. You love the new talents? How do you feel about all the talents being unique now? You've been doing unpaid stuff and things on your job? I would never do anything I don't get paid for. You don't think it's a problem? Do you think... my big thing is I haven't been able to try it yet. I think it's ultimately going to hurt build diversity, and everybody is going to run the same 6 to 8 talents based on what build they're running. And if somebody finds out that there's like the best hybrid build, everybody's just going to run the same thing. So I'm really, really curious. And I do think that they need to up the gear score when they introduce this, because it will give us all a reason to grind again, and it won't that feeling that everybody's going to have of like, well, my build's fucked now, will be lessened if they boost the gear score. But I'm going to be right back. You guys are all freaking awesome. A positive reason to grind again? Yes and no. It's a good reason to grind again, but if they don't fix RNG, that grind is still going to suck. So they need to fix the RNG. And that's why I keep saying that until they until they fix that, I'll be in Destiny 2. Because that RNG is the problem more so than the loot or the gear or anything else. Yo, Jinkies, what's up? How's your Saturday going? Better than just regrinding your gear, because your raid gear's all messed up. That's what I'm saying. Like, if your raid gear or your raid set gets completely effed by this, it makes it easier to justify a new grind if your gear score is getting boosted and you can now go for 550 gear or whatever. Chilling and working on your art page. Nice. I'm going to switch over to Destiny and work on some dailies, weeklies, and I don't know. I think I might be doing something with Rapture. She said something about Prestige, Leviathan, but I think they were full for that, but I think we might be doing Scourge later. I got to do a Shattered Throne. Yeah, man, there's all kinds of crap I have to do. So we're on the same page then. Yeah, no, completely. I think they need to boost the gear score. And I was going to suggest it, but they keep ignoring all my questions. So I just kind of over it. But until they haven't addressed whether or not they're fixing NPCs, and I think they're going to need to for all of these changes. Until they address the RNG issue. And there was something else. I can't remember the other thing. So it must not have been that important. You also have to do Shattered Throne. You've been on Borderlands. I'll do if you want to do Shattered Throne, I'm down. I can't do it yet. I've got to finish a weekly bounty first. There's a weekly rare bounty for the forges that I have to do first, but then I will. With all 4 gear talents and a classic M1A. Dude, I heard the classic M1A is a motherfucking badass now. RNG shouldn't be as bad as it is with the new recal, though. It's going to be the exact same. The new recal is going to help some, but ultimately, it's going to be counterbalanced by the fact that you can only run one piece of concussion gear or one piece of devastating. Because now, if you run devastating, you might keep that piece for your stash because you might want to roll that onto another piece if you get it. But now, if you're already running devastating and you get, if you're running devastating on your knees and you get a holster that has devastating, if it's a low roll, it's wasted. Whereas before, you might want to keep that devastating roll because you might need it. Like, yeah, Ion and RNG is going to be even worse because now all brand sets roll in all slots and gear sets have been added to the general loot pool. So the little bit of fixing that they made with recal as far as being able to roll red stats to blue stats or blue stats to red or yellow to blue or whatever, the tiny bit of help that that's going to give is massively offset and made so much worse by the loot pool getting substantially bigger. You're doing a 3 million DPS, the classic M1A. I heard that is amazing. You'll be here, so just shout your name when you're done. Should I actually shout it, or should I just be like, hey, yo, Jinkies, I'm ready for you? Or do you want me to actually yell? Do you want me to be like, Jinkies? Ooh, I shouldn't yell. Low sleeping. I'm not going to yell. I'm just going to go, hey, Jinkies, I'm ready for you. I'm ready and waiting for you. You guys should come into the game. Yeah, I'm going to do the first one, because Glow will fucking kick me in the sack if I wake her up. I'm not whispering, Grill. I'm just talking in a very easy listening music radio station kind of way. Coming at you now, we got some Dan Fogelberg with his new hit single, I'm a fucking pansy, and I can't do anything, so I'll never get laid. Oh yeah. I'm going to whisper for you when you get to the Discord. No, I don't want to antagonize Girl Sergeant. See, that's the thing. Like, to him, that ASMR whispering is just as bad as, like, misophonia is to me or when Johnny gets in chat and he's like... And so that's why I do that back to him all the time just to mess with him. Alrighty, I will be right back. I gotta pee like a racehorse. You guys are awesome. Enjoy this. What should we do? We should do Misophonia. We got some new people that maybe have not seen it. So since we're talking about that, we're gonna show you guys some Misophonia. I will be back in